Hello and welcome to Strive Defense Dialogue. As you are aware, Strive is a think tank of veterans of Indian Armed Forces based at Lucknow. Today, we have a very special guest once again. We have Mrs. Jennifer Zing, who is a native Chinese, presently staying in the USA. Welcome to the show, ma'am.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, ma'am. Very briefly about Miss Jennifer Zeng. She, as I mentioned, is a China expert and former researcher at the Development Research Center of the State Council of People's Republic of China, the highest level government policy research and consult body. She currently hosts her website, jenniferzenblog.com, and I can vouch for it that the most authentic, fastest, uncensored, first-hand information from inside China, and also unique in-depth analysis of the information regarding current affairs and politics in China. There is no better place to see than her blog. She's been working in the media industry as a journalist, editor, news producer, news director, columnist, and TV show host. As I mentioned, she's born in China and now she's residing in the USA. Ma'am, once again, welcome to our show and thank you very much for accepting the invitation, ma'am.
Thank you for having me again.
Ma'am, we'll start with a small little thing. Your name is Jennifer Zing.
Yes.
How come Chinese keep a Western name? Why do they do it? And you have, as per your tradition, you have a family name, you have a given name. Ma'am, for our audience, can you briefly explain what is the difference between these three names?
Okay, Jennifer Zeng actually is an English name I adopted after I came to Australia in 2001 because a Western name actually obviously is much easier for people to use. And actually my Chinese name is Zheng Zheng. So it sounds different. It sounds similar. Zheng is my family name, and Zheng it's my given name, which they sound different, but their characters are different. And my given name Zheng actually is described the sound when two kinds of metal clash. Zheng. So this word in ancient China is used to describe someone who is very steadfast, who is very determined, and who are usually not easy to given up to any pressure, especially the pressure from the officials, from the government. It's used to describe somebody who is very upright, who has the courage to speak truth to the power. So I think my mom gave me that name in the hoping that I become a noble person, have a noble character, who can have this you can say backbone to stand up for the justice and for truth. My mom given me that name when I was born.
That's very interesting, ma'am. Thank you very much. Now we'll come on to our main topic. Yes, ma'am. For non-Chinese, it is very difficult for us to pronounce the names, and you tend to forget also. So this name is familiar to all of us, and yes, it makes a lot of sense. Ma'am, coming on to the topic, what is happening in China, ma'am? There are a lot of health codes, the testing which has started again, there are mask mandates that have come. Is COVID back?
Initially, I think what we could know is only a phenomena of all the hospitals, especially children's hospital, were overcrowded. It started from northeast China and then spread to Beijing, to Tianjin, and then spread all over the country. So some children's hospital were seeing 10 times more patients than usual years. So that kind of phenomenon lasted, and only because some netizens took some photos and videos, uploaded them on the social media, that we knew how serious the problem was. But initially, the Chinese authorities, I think, they want to downplay this wave of outbreak, so they try to say it is a pneumonia caused by mycoplasma, but from what of the phenomena we saw gradually, like you said, mask mandate is coming back, and it's especially when someone posted his medical records on the internet, they gave him all sorts of tests, but COVID. So it seems like the Chinese authorities or the Chinese Communist Party purposely avoid giving people COVID, because in other countries, if you have a symptom like cough, fever, or respiratory symptoms, well, you would immediately given a COVID test, because in a lot of countries it's going on, although it's not that serious as before. So gradually, from all these symptoms, I tend to believe it is still COVID. Either it's coming back or a new variant, but also, of course, there is another possibility, that is some bad reaction of the vaccine, or the vaccine's quality is not good enough, because China, I think, is the only country that use the inactivated vaccine. So that's a very special type, and especially after the death of a very famous celebrity actress from Hong Kong. She moved to China later. So, and she actually acted as the promotional ambassador for the CCP's vaccine. So she herself got 4 doses of vaccine, and she suddenly died alone at her home at the age of only 57. She was rushed to the house. She was still okay maybe several days ago, and she stayed at home, and suddenly the next day her assistant found her already dead and home, and she was rushed to the hospital, and the CCP is trying to cover up the fact that he has been acted as the CCP's vaccination promotion ambassador. After his death, they actually deleted that record from his bio online. So could be different reasons that how we can make the best guess from what we saw and observed. Sorry, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now, ma'am?
Yes, I can.
Okay, ma'am. Just request you to repeat what you said in last 30 seconds, ma'am.
Oh, I actually forgot. Oh, I'm talking about the days of a very famous actress who was acted as the vaccination promotion ambassador for the CCP, and after his sudden death, the CCP actually deleted that piece of paragraph of her being the ambassador of vaccination. They deleted from her bio online, so it makes people doubt whether CCP has something to cover up. So why they deleted that fact that she has gotten, she had 4 doses of vaccination, all made by China. I think it's a Sinovac. And then she also got a nasal spray vaccination, but he died of a very sudden death at home at an age of only 57, very young age.
That's sad. That's sad. But, ma'am, there is a problem with CCP.
Yes.
Again, there is a problem. Once they have declared victory against COVID. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, I can.
I said once CCP has declared victory over COVID, so they cannot say that COVID is back. But aren't they making fool of the world, and we are heading to another problem?
Yes, exactly. When I did my first show, my first coverage on this wave of outbreak, and that time CCP was declaring this is influenza, this is mycoplasma. Pneumonia. They mention every sort of virus name, but the COVID. I said in that first show, I seriously doubt it's still COVID. It's either it has never left or it has come make a return or there's new variation. The reason why they didn't want to admit this is COVID is exactly like you said, because they had already declared victory, and also they had imposed 3-year very insane and strict lockdowns. If they admit it's a COVID, one, it means their so-called control and prevention had failed. Two, if you impose lockdowns in the past, and now if it's coming back, whether you are going to impose lockdown again, if you impose lockdown, people are not going to like it. The economy can't, I think, handle another lockdown. But if you don't impose lockdown, how would you justify your lockdowns before? So they are in a very awkward position. That's why they'd rather cover up. So they lied to the world again. They didn't admit there is a COVID. And then I think very recently, they finally admitted the new variant, which is JN.1, I think, had
Yes.
actually had appeared in China. They first found it in October, but they only told the world in December.
Oh, so they have accepted that this is a variant of COVID?
Yes, they recently admitted they have discovered discovered this new variant, which is already in other countries. They admitted it only after other countries are saying this is the most fastest spreading new variant of COVID. They admitted it, so they can turn around to blame. Oh, we got this from other countries because America is having it, the Europe is having it. We got. They always said COVID is imported from other countries. They never wanted to admit this originated from China.
Ma'am, what are the reasons? Why is China, especially the Wuhan lab, last time also it has happened from there, the spread, the way it is going, this time also it seems that it is from China. What is so special about China? What is the reason why these viruses are originating from China?
I think now almost everybody agreed that this virus came from the lamp, the P4 lamp in Wuhan. It started there, but how it started could be one, it's an accident. They unintentionally release it, but it is a fact that they were doing all kind of research of including gain of function research. They are studying how to give the virus, you can say, more power to infect people and animals. So it could either be an intentional release or an unintentional release, but there is no doubt it came from that lamp in Wuhan. Actually, if you go to my Twitter account, my pinned tweet is a video, is an interview I did with somebody who had a direct conversation from the virologist of Wuhan Institution of Virology, and in 2020, in March, this virologist from Wuhan Institution of Virology. His name is Shan Chao. He personally admitted to my interviewee that he was given full completed coronavirus in 2019 to screen them, to select them, to test them, to choose one that have the best ability to infect as many species as possible. And the reason why they want to select a virus that is able to infect as many species as possible is if you can infected many species as a bioweapon. And he actually personally admitted this was a bioweapon. And as a bioweapon, if you can infect a lot of different species, it is very hard for the world to find which one actually is the real or origin of the virus. It's very hard to source the actual origin of the virus. That's why they selected, they did that. So Shan Chao's team was tasked with this, especially task because the virus was already done. It could be done by other group or other scientists in China. He was entrusted with this part of task. So I encourage everybody to go to my Twitter account and watch that. I think it's a 35 minutes interview with that my interviewee who had direct conversation and admission from Shan Chao of Wuhan Institution of Virology.
But, ma'am, it's very surprising. On one side, China is trying to tell the world that you have to follow the international rules and regulations, and then they themselves are indulging into something which is inhuman, trying to create new virus. What is the purpose of having these double standards?
I think like my interviews told me, I also challenged him with this similar kind of question. I said, if CCP try to develop bioweapon, what's the purpose? Because after the outbreak of COVID, Chinese people also suffered a lot. So what's the purpose? And he told me actually the purpose of the Chinese Communist Party or their ultimate goal is to occupy or conquer the entire world. They need to, the so-called liberate the entire humanity. So they want to dominate in this world. So to have some very powerful bioweapon will give them a lot of advantage to achieve their goal. And because of that, I think the CCP never ever obeyed international rules. Like when they joined the WTO, they agreed they will bow the rules, they will open their market, they will do this and do that. But after so many years, they never keep their promises. And from their past behaviors, I think now everybody understands the CCP couldn't care less about international rules. But often, like you said, they will turn around, they blame others for not following the rules. I think the CCP is just by nature is very evil. From what you see, it has been doing to its own people. It has been, persecuting all sorts of groups of people. It's harvest people's organs while they are still alive to sell money. They are doing all sorts of evil things. So why would they bother to follow international rules? I think the world still know not enough about the evil nature and the killing history of the CCP.
Ma'am, do you think last time the international community, I would call it, failed to punish China? Firstly, to establish that COVID, because the Chinese authorities had hidden it. That is why the whole world suffered, not only humanity, the economy, the business, everything has suffered. So
Yes.
is it that we've not been able to, put this sort of fear in the mind of China that international community will go after them?
Yes, I definitely agree because last time even if it's this release is not released from that lamp, but the mirror fact that they cover up the outbreak have that's the direct cause of the spread, that why it's a small issue in a local small issue, that's why it spread to the entire world. I read some article that if they can announce it or they can warn the world with maybe 1 week earlier or 1 month earlier, that would
Yes.
reduce 99% of the spread. But they didn't. They failed. Instead, they allowed international flights all over the world and let the spread let the virus spread all over the world. I think the failure of the international world to hold the CCP accountable is a very sad tragedy, because the CCP could get away from what they did the last time.
Yes.
Why wouldn't they do it another time? Say they don't bother. And the WHO, I think, for now has never been able to try to send international experts into China to get to the bottom of the issue, how and why exactly it broke out. If we couldn't find the root cause of the last pandemic, we could very possible suffer another one.
But this time, ma'am, have they taken corrective measures in time? Are there any testing being done, or some restrictions being put, or some sort of code like they had done on the mobile last time with green, yellow, and red, restricting the entries? Has China taken those instructions and they're following it, ma'am?
It's hard to say. I think in the beginning they want to cover it up and pretending it's something else. They even didn't give patients COVID test. They want maybe just hoping it were just passed like last time. Because they never care how many people died, and then the problem became worse and worse. And I think they knew very well it's COVID, so they I think indirectly or trying to slickly like we said, post some kind of regulation and suggesting or asking people to wear masks again. And some cities have reinstall the health code or reactivate the health code, and some cities started to do COVID test to people again. But in general, I think there lacks the coordinated effort and to deal with it in a very timely manner, so to reduce the spread. I think because the first priority for the CCP is to save their face, is not to save people's lives. So they always act very, you can say, either slowly or very handle it very wrong or do nothing at all, and then let the people suffer and let the international community in the dark. And they just hoping that after many people die, this thing will get over anyway, like what happened in last year in December and in the beginning of this year when they first lifted the lockdown. So many people died. You couldn't get into the funeral home to get your family's body burned, cremated. Sometimes you had to wait 2 or 3 months. So the CCPs, I think their starting point to consider things is totally different, from other government who wants to be responsible to their people and to their people's lives. The CCP consider different issues.
Ma'am, this is very scary. CCP at one time could control the press with both the print media and the electronic media, but in today's world, with the social media being active and with virtual connection to the entire world, a lot of relatives and friends staying abroad. So, isn't it that CCP would, whatever CCP is doing or not doing, the most of the population, and especially the opinion makers in China, will come to know what is this actual state and what the CCP is trying to tell. I mean, how are
No,
they doing the propaganda?
it's still very hard for the Chinese public to know the truth. Like you said, all official media is controlled by the CCP. As for the social media, like Twitter, X, Facebook, like YouTube, all other free media, free foreign app are forbidden, are banned in China. So Chinese people can only have access to Chinese controlled app like WeChat, like TikTok that's in China called Douyin, all sorts of these Chinese apps. They are all also controlled by the CCP. They have set up tens of thousands of different sensitive words to block information, and they are always enlarging that list. So whenever something big issue happen, they just add a small, several different sensitive words to be blocked. And their technology are so advanced now they can even recognize image to block. So it's also very, very hard for people to spread any information on social media, because social media, they have ways to block it as well. And they also have hired maybe hundreds of thousands of internet police to manually watch over what people are talking about online. So any information, sensitive information, could get deleted after maybe surviving for only several minutes or in real time. So actually in China, maybe you even don't know apart from what you can know from your own environment, like your family, your friends, your colleague, you can hardly know what even happened in the next street. So that's the real situation in China. That's how hard we get any true information from inside China, because foreign journalists are not allowed to go anywhere to do free or to do any coverage freely. If a foreign journalist in Beijing want to go to another city, they need to get permission from the CCP government as well. So that's the real situation in China. That's how we can't really trust anything that in the official media, and it is very, very hard to get any other information from China.
Okay. So that's what I was wondering, that, these sort of information, now the world should get scared with
Yes.
what is happening in China.
Yes, I think the world should push stronger for the CCP, because they are the member of the WTO, and it's not good enough for the WTO or WHO just passively waiting for the CCP to tell them what's happening in China, because that kind of mechanism always failed, because we know now it's a fact that they cover up, that they lied all the time. So the international world should push very hard for the CCP to allow international experts to go inside China to do their own investigation and observation. And the international world should follow what's happening in China and monitor the situation, so that we don't get affected very badly again like last time.
Okay. Ma'am, tell me, what extent has this, shall we call it epidemic or pandemic, what extent has it spread in China? I mean, which all cities are badly affected?
Yes, I think all over China, you get like videos, sometimes photos of the hospitals get overcrowded. It first started from children, and now it seems like many adults are also affected. We get scattered reports here and there from sometimes, but from what we gathered, now a lot of adults are also affected, and a lot of CCP, we can say officials, celebrities are dying at a very a much faster speed. There are reports because, like I said, if it's a celebrity who died, somehow the news of their deaths can hardly be suppressed. And also, if this person is a CCP official, and by default they would announce his death and at least publish news of how about his funeral service and this and that. And some overseas Chinese media has, especially the Chinese version of the Epoch Times, has connected a lot of this arbitrary of the CCP officials and the celebrities. And I also compiled a list. You can see that the celebrities are dying at a much faster speed and a very, very young age. Many of them are in their 50s, and especially recently, several very famous scientists also died, either in their 50s, and also several people who are involved in the vaccination research. Their scientists also died even in their 40s. So those kind of phenomena really get people worried about or wondered what has been happening in China, why there are so many, we can say, more frequent and intense deaths, at least among CCP officials, because we don't know the situation among ordinary Chinese people. If nobody are talking about it, we don't know. But occasionally, there's another TV station called New NTD, Newtown Dynasty Television. They make phone calls to China and randomly interview some ordinary Chinese citizens, and they are reporting overcrowded crematoriums again, and all their colleague died. I remember one interview said, and 10 of her colleagues have died in recent years. So those are all, scattered information. But from this information, I had a feeling that things are not very good in China. And the CCP is covering up the real situation. We don't know really what's going on in China, except that many people are dying include many celebrities and high-level CCP officials, and that children are seeking, and sometimes like kindergartens, like primary schools, the whole class was sick, or a third of the class was sick. I remember seeing a photo of only 3 children attended the kindergarten out of 26. They had 26 in that class, but only 3 showed up because all the other 23 were sick. So that's the scattered sort of information we could know. But from this, we can make a conclusion, a very reasonable one, that the situation is very bad in China.
Ma'am, we'll now take on the question from the audience, because few of the questions which I wanted to ask are the same what the audience has also given. We'll go ahead with the first question, ma'am. Can you read this question on the screen, ma'am?
Where can I read? Comments area?
No, onto the screen, ma'am. Okay, I'll read the question deliberately, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, what do you think how WHO is going to react? This is Colonel Chauhan has asked this question, ma'am.
I think the WHO has been just repeating what the CCP told them. They took everything the CCP tells them as fact and just repeat them to the world. So far, I didn't see any, very strong and you can say responsible reaction from the WHO, especially in the beginning of the pandemic, like in 2020. The WHO. Sometimes I watch the press conference, and I got an impression after the press conference. I feel like the WHO officials sounds like the CCP's spokesperson. They defend the CCP. They repeat the CCP's lies, and they are so soft on their stance, and it seems to me they didn't learn much lesson. Maybe they improved a little bit, but still, I don't think they are doing the job as they should.
Ma'am, on the same lines, what you have explained, we have General Chaturvedi. You can hear me, ma'am?
Yes, I can.
Okay. General Chaturvedi has given a comment you may like to add, ma'am. Thus, spread of a contagion will be graded epidemic or pandemic as per the nudging of WHO. That
Sorry,
indeed
what?
leads, he is basically saying that whether it will be declared as epidemic or pandemic will depend on what China tells the WHO. Is it correct?
Yes, I think so, because the WHO didn't send their own experts to China. They are now totally rely on China to tell them what's happening. And they didn't do their own test and didn't do their own investigation. And so I think it's a very passive, position that the entire world virtually is relying on what the CCP tells us.
But on one side, ma'am, we are saying that there are very stringent methods Chinese or CCP is employing, and then WHO has not sent its rep. So whatever is coming is a suspect in that case. This is what Jal Chaturvedi has added this comment.
Sorry, I don't quite understand. Is this a question or a statement or a
No, it is
comment?
a statement. He says his observation is that information coming out of China is a suspect. This is what
Yes,
his comment is. I am adding that means WHO is not doing its job and relying on whatever China wants them to believe.
yes, I agree. I totally agree.
Ma'am, there is another question which has come from JBJP. Ask what, according to you, was death toll of COVID in China? Probably he's referring to the present environment. How many do you think, or you have come to know, have died in China so far in the JN.1 variant?
This time, I think we have no figures at all. I saw several reports of people complaining about crematorium became overcrowded again, and people had to wait, or it's hard to get an appointment. But that's the only thing we can get. So exactly how many people have died or are dying, there's no, official statistic figure, and any individual can only know what happened around you yourself. You don't know what happened in your neighborhood or in another city. So I can only say right now I have no information whatsoever about the death toll of this wave of outbreak.
Okay, ma'am, there is yet another comment. The stranglehold explained by you is scary. People are scared of the way information is controlled in China. This means only that information is filtered out of China, which CCP allows to go out. Is it fully correct, ma'am?
So this means only that info is filtered. Yes, I think mostly correct. Maybe occasionally they are not quick enough to delete some kind of information from the social media, so that kind of information got leaked or got reposted in overseas platform like Twitter or X. So, but those kind of things are random and it's not reliable. But sometimes it gives us some glimpse into what's really going on in China. But overall, it is very hard to know the overall situation.
Yes, ma'am. Like very recently, the official newspaper Xinhua. I hope you understood our pronunciation. Xinhua
Yes.
had given this information about children, if I'm not wrong, and some precautions to be taken by children. This had appeared in Xinhua, so that means something is wrong there. An official newspaper
Yes.
with so much of circulation is giving cautionary messages.
Yes, yes. So that's the way how the CCP handle things. They never, like I said in one of my shows, they never did a serious news report about the outbreak, but they sneakily maybe put something up in their health section to tell people how to, prevent from getting
Correct.
infected, how to protect yourself in this wave of, outbreak. So as a knowledge piece, but the fact that they put up this the knowledge piece and also the notification of people should wear mask under such kind of circumstances and conditions tells you that the problem must have already been very
Yes.
serious. Otherwise, they wouldn't put up this kind of information at all.
Yes, the indicators, ma'am, like you have explained, I will just sum it up. The indications are that the health code is back with people getting that green, yellow, and red signs on their mobile. Testing is back, though they're calling it random. I read somewhere that Shanghai airport has started the testing of people who have gone abroad. Then mask mandate has come wherever they said that you are going to internal meetings in a closed door, you must wear mask. The
Yeah.
COVID vaccine dolled by them is a suspect after that Hong Kong actress who has died, who had taken 4 doses. So, overall, these are the indications which say that things may not be that simple as they look or they seem to us.
Yes, I totally agree. But the thing is, we don't really know what's happening and what's going on. We all have to guess from what the information is already available. They are incomplete or they could be biased, but that's the only thing we can get. That's why I think the world should push harder for the CCP to let the international community to get into China to do their own investigation.
Yes. Ma'am, there is another question from Samrat Ashok. Do you
Mhm.
believe that people in China also experienced starvation related deaths during the lockdown there?
Yes, there are maybe during the 3-year lockdown, there are so many people died of either starvation or the inability to seek medical treatment because they were not allowed to go out. They died from other kind of diseases, and these kind of deaths could be many or maybe as many as the deaths from the COVID, but we don't know the real number. We do know, yes, there were cases of people dying of starvation or a lack of treatment, and that sort of very tragic. Like situation, it's we call it secondary tragedy of the COVID. They were not killed by the COVID itself, but they were killed by the lockdowns.
Okay. Ma'am, one more question and then we sum up. Ask,
Mhm.
did the Chinese public ever come to a revolt like situation against CCP during the month long total lockdown in China during zero COVID policy implementation days? This again is by JBJP.
Yes, I think until the end of last year, there were so-called the blank paper or white paper revolution in China, where people hold a piece of A4 paper with nothing on it to protest. I think at that stage, people were fed up with the lockdowns and they really wanted the freedom to move around. So that thing happened. But like again, like China is such a tightly controlled society that outsiders have really very little idea about that. So everyone is watched. You have a social credit a system, and every person maybe have two cameras. You are watched, and their facial recognition technology is so advanced, and also all the social media app are monitored. So it is very hard for people to communicate and mobilize between themselves and to organize something, because as soon as somebody says something on the social media, the government already know it, and they will go arrest whoever who is trying to organize something. So that's why in China, every individual is they called like a separated atom, and you are all like separated atoms. So it's very hard for you to organize, to associate, and to do something together. I knew a case like, it's not a COVID. I think they are just some victim of financial fraud. They want to organize themselves to go to seek some compensation from that institution, but the person who is organizing it got arrested. So instead of getting anything back, the other people in the same group have to raise money to pay for his legal fee and also to support his daughter, because he has an independent daughter on him. After he got arrested, the livelihood of his daughter became a problem. So instead of getting any money back from the institution, these people are paying more money because of the arrest of their head, you can say that. So it is very hard for any protest to happen under this kind of circumstance.
But ma'am, like one of our viewers has also said a supplementary question. He says that how does CCP so effectively control voice of 1.4 billion Chinese people? Is it that powerful and spread out in every nook and corner of your country wherever population lives?
I think it's a result of over 7 decades of the CCP's rule. They are trying that you can say reinforce their control over all these years. And also, especially now we are in a digital area, the digital technology didn't like as we expected. The internet would bring freedom, more freedom of speech to people. Instead, the digital technology now I think give the CCP more power to take control of the population. That is very sad fact, but it is, I think, continuous efforts on the CCP's part to reinforce their control. So they are over ever, you can say, updating their new technology and their new method. So I think China maybe is one of the most controlled country, maybe just after or the same level as North Korea. So that's a very unfortunate fact, but it is happening in China.
Ma'am, DIKP has asked how COVID has impacted Chinese economy. What
I'd
measures?
say very, very badly. After they lifted the lockdown, in the beginning, they believe the economy will bounce back very, very soon, because now that the lockdowns are lifted. But unfortunately, all the economic figures in this year are going downwards. I think next year we will see the collapse of the real estate market is already collapsing, and the debts of the government, local governments, were very possibly explode. I recently did two programs about that, and the unemployment situation is very, very bad. And people are talk about downgrading of their consumption level. People are not buying any luxury goods. They are going to very cheap products instead. So all these phenomena, I think, give us a very, very gloom future of the Chinese economy. And I actually personally believe next year we will see huge problems with China's economy. The banks could go bankruptcy, and even the most, I think, insured employees like the public servant are now having pay cuts. And I saw a lot of information about people are not paid for months, and some cities are shut down all their public transportation system because they can't afford it. And some teachers are not get paid their stage protests, that sort of thing. I saw this kind of news almost every single day. Also because the Chinese, like I said, is controlling the information, and now they are even banned any economist to talk about negative news in their own like social media account or their own channel. And recently at their economic meeting conference of the central government, they put up a new slogan like, we need to sing out aloud about China's bright economic future. So, whenever the China say we need to do that, it means in that area there's huge problem. Now they say usually you rely on three engines to push forward your economy: investment, consumption, and trade. But now the three new engines for the CCP, that's the joke of Chinese netizens, is China's propaganda department, the national security department, and the internet police. The propaganda department is responsible to create positive news and images, and the national security and the internet police are responsible to suppress any negative comments about Chinese economy. So in the news, and you say, oh, China's future is so bright. But I personally believe next year we will see huge things happening within the financial, real estate, and economic sector.
But this is not very good news for the CCP.
No, not very, actually not good news at all. I think they are all fatal news to the CCP. Now, I personally can't see any possibilities how they can turn around of this. The fact is now China's farmers, I think nearly 300 million of them were working in the cities. And in China, China's land, according to the years or to the profit of how much the land can make, China's land can only support 200 million population. But in China, there were nearly 500 million people living in the rural area. And so that means for 300 million of people living in the rural area, they are actually relying on the nearly 300 migrant workers who work in the cities to support them. So one migrant workers is supporting one farmers out back in the rural country, because there is no government welfare for farmers. So if one migrant worker loses his job in the city, it means two people are going to starve in next year. So next year we will very possibly say over 120 million people being out of job and starving and could starve to death. That's very solid calculation. If you go to my Twitter account, see my latest article published in Japan Forward, you can see all my calculation is based on official figure, and that's the very gloomy unemployment situation very possible to happen in next year.
And this will further get compounded in case the factories are moved out of China. So that is probably the reason Xi Jinping is trying to, make up with the USA.
Sorry, what's the question?
My question was that you add the factories being moved out from China.
Yes.
So that will further have adverse effect on economy. And is it the reason that Xi may patch up with the USA?
Yes, I think that could be a reason. Yes, I forgot to mention that. Yes, many foreign factors are moving out of China that keep happening and on a very large scale. So that is also a very heavy blow to the Chinese economy. I think China was able to gain very fast speed growth in the past several decades after they joined the WTO. I think they benefited a lot from foreign investment, and also, of course, they dump the international market with their cheap products. But after the foreign, investment, foreign factories moved out, that means they are losing foreign investment, they are losing employment, they are losing jobs. And if the situation becomes worse, it is very possible, I think, maybe the only possibilities left over for the CCP is to start a war against Taiwan, against the US, to divert the attention or all these unsolvable problems in China. That is a possibility and a risk I think the international world should really be watch out for.
Ma'am, there are some positive people who are always positive. We have one question from Colonel RP Singh. His question is, China failed to check COVID. Why China is not taking any support of India? Is it because India, if we see overall, has managed the COVID problem much better than any other country, considering the population of the country?
Yes.
Is there any chance of cooperation between China and India in future on this issue itself, if things come to that extent?
No, not at all. I'd like to say, whenever any natural disaster happens in China, like recently, the earthquake in Gansu province, many international world, including Taiwan, offered to help, but the CCP always refuses international help. They not only refuse international help, they even refuse Chinese help from other regions. Why?
Okay.
Because they can't control information. If like Indian people go into that rescue site, you will see what's the real situation. You could tell your people, you could post on your Twitter account, which they couldn't control. For the CCP, if they allow any international cooperation or rescue team to come into China, it means they lose control of the information, and that's what they want to happen the least. I don't think there's any possibility of a cooperation and China. That also means the CCP would have to admit that they are doing much worse job than India, and they need the help from India. I don't think the CCP will risk that kind of thing. Their face is the only legitimacy for them to rule China is that we are the best to govern the country. So that's why we should be in power. So if ever they admit they are doing not that good job, and other country, and especially India is a democracy, if they admit democracy works better than the CCP's dictatorship, that would mean the end of their legitimacy. So So,
Yeah.
so that's why I think it's very unlikely for the CCP to allow India for any help or
and
cooperation.
and it also gives a blow to Chinese dream and the Middle Kingdom syndrome that we see in Chinese.
Yes, their face is most important.
Yeah, face saving is most important in them.
Yeah, more important than people's lives.
Yeah. Ma'am, we'll take one last question, though not directly related to the show, but giving your. There is some problem with this. Just one second, ma'am. Yeah. Jan Chaturvedi has asked this question, though not related to the topic, but given
Mhm.
your knowledge about the thing, how has climate change impacted China in recent times?
I think maybe not as I think China is really suffering a lot of from natural disasters or could be related to climate change or whatnot. But I think the biggest suffering China is having now is the CCP's rule itself. It's a lot of man-made disasters, like the COVID one could be, a man-made disaster, or something goes wrong with when they are trying to create a bioweapon. Like the recent earthquake, there were information that it could come from a nuclear test in that area. It's not really a earthquake. It's a nuclear test. So I think China has suffered way much more from all sorts of man-made disasters created by the CCP instead of the climate change. Sorry, I can't hear anything.
Thank you very much. I think your answers have been. Can you hear me?
Yes, I lost
Yeah.
your voice for a few seconds.
Yes, yes. He had just lost the communication through this thing.
Mhm.
It was the last question he asked: how the climate changes impact the China in
Yeah.
recent time. The question is from Colonel Jana Ajay Chaturvedi. Can you answer it again, please?
Okay, so I think the climate change may have some kind of effect in China, but as far as I'm concerned, there are more. The Chinese people are more affected by the man-made disasters created by the CCP, much more severe than the climate change.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
ma'am.
Nobody else
Sorry.
come.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I think my net got disconnected for some reasons. For a moment, I was out of the screen. Ma'am, it was a great discussion, and we tried to gain the maximum from what you have said. In fact, a lot of issues have been very clear to me myself about China, about CCP conduct, and that is great insight into China. And thank you very much, ma'am. Now, may I request you to just, in case you want to make a concluding comment, ma'am.
Yes, I do hope that the world can see through the CCP's real color, real nature, and don't, I think, harbor any unrealistic, you can say, illusion about that the CCP can be better, they can become a part of the international world or the civilized world. The quicker, the more we see clearly the evil nature of the CCP and deal with it accordingly, the better the world can protect itself from the damage that the CCP has been causing to the world.
Thank you, ma'am. It was an excellent discussion. I apologize to viewers on two things. One was that, ma'am, your voice and video there was a little bit of drag due to internet connection, some problem with the internet connection. So there was a very interesting comment by somebody saying that it seems that the host is talking to an AI generated image of Mrs. Jennifer. So because there was little bit of difference between the audio and the video, the way it was being streamed, then I got my internet got disrupted. I'm extremely sorry for these technical hitches. Ma'am, thank you very much. And it was a great insight into what is happening, what is CCP, how CCP controls the body and the minds of the Chinese. Ma'am, we are looking forward to a few more interactions in future. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye bye.
Bye bye.